I guess I can put the shovel away. Rusted, brand new. I have a question. Can I get rid of the like, dislike button on YouTube? Because my buddy 84 Gas Wild Sub 8101 in Japan keeps getting his videos marked as spam no matter what he writes. So I'm gonna do a brief description of alternators here. I've got them all lined up cozy on the ladder. I've already dropped one off the ladder. GM made a zillion internal regulator alternators, and I've got 6 here, and there's probably a few more. And the biggest difference is, let's go a little bit further back. Internal regulator alternator means it has the plug, a white, clear white, flat plug on the side, as opposed to 64, 65, the plug on the back. Have I got this on macro? Hang on a sec. Alright, macro. So, in 65, GM put an alternator on the Corvair, and did they do it in 65 on the rest of their cars? Probably. 327s, 283s, the first year for the 396. Anyhow, there are so many variations of this alternator. The older ones, probably 70s, when they went to the internal regulator in, let's see, generator was till 64, alternator 65, and they went to the internal regulator 69, 70, 71. The Grand Prix may have been the first one with a high energy ignition as an option 5 years before GM went to the HEI, which I've got some up there somewhere, but we'll try not to get too distracted. Anyhow, where do I start? This is the oldest style with these fins along the back. Now, I'm probably wrong with some details, but this says 75304. It might have been on American Motors, but it's definitely a GM alternator. American Motors used a Presto Light as well, but they also use GM systems. They use GM steering boxes. They use whatever parts they could source. GM's a big company. They'd sell anything to anybody. So this is the oldest style. Probably that's a 63 amp, which is what my 83 POS plow truck. As a matter of fact, I just talked about that plow truck, and I saw the guy yesterday. He was in town. He hasn't got the water turned on in his cottage where the POS is parked. So he was in town using the shower at the YMCA because he hasn't got his water turned on yet. He lives on the lake, and he draws water off the lake. Anyways, this is a 63 amp, which is the lowest amp one, maybe 63 amps. And if you buy one of these at AutoZone, remanufactured in Mexico, they're $30 with a $15 core. Let's see, where do we go up from there? Maybe this one? See how the bearing is just smooth? Smooth. At some point, GM upgraded the bearing housing to have these little lines here, like that one, like this one, reinforced. So I'd say that this is the next stage up. Now, can I see how many amps this one's rated at? Got my hook here for the drill. This might be a 70 or 80 amp. And who knows if the parts inside or what the rating is that GM stamped into these things 30 years ago. So this one, and there's this one. See the case is smooth here. There's the rectifier. Don't ask me what a rectifier does, I don't know. Regulator is there. 3 screws that hold it down, and you plug into the side of the regulator right there. See the 3 screws for the regulator? This has got round holes, this one's got slots. There's that test space where you can stick your screwdriver in, but you got to file this smooth here to be able to get a good contact. Got to get the corrosion off and see if the regulator is the problem. If you're not charging enough, could be the diode trio, could be the rectifier, broken wire. I've never seen a broken wire in these things. They're pretty well made. Then where do we step up from there? Good question. These have got the plastic fan, and I've been taking these apart. You can only take them apart with an impact gun. Good luck putting an Allen key in the front shaft and undoing that nut. Good luck. Oh, that's a flat belt. So that's the newest one of the lot. And these could be the same year. The GM went to the flat belt in '87 with the first year of fuel injection on the pickup trucks. But the power steering still ran off of a V-belt. Alternator off a flat belt. Flat belt's so much better. So they both got the strengthening ribs. These alternators are pretty much the same alternator. We got an amp rating on this one, maybe 63 amps as well. So we'll call that the bottom of the barrel, 63. There might have been a smaller one, maybe on a cheapy model, maybe a 6-cylinder with no lights or no heater for Hawaii. After that, we got this one here, and that one has got a triple pulley. This one is off of my bucket truck, and this one, let's see if I can take this one off without chucking the rest of them on the ground. Whoa, it's heavy. The new ones are so much lighter because they're junk. Bearings blow up starting in '87. Something scratched in here. Davis. This one came off of my Mix Match Suburban, and I've added and subtracted some parts. Let's see if I can read the amps. No, can't read it. Who knows? Anyways, like I said, who knows what's inside these things. The last thing I'm going to show you is, I wouldn't say the ultimate upgrade, but an easy upgrade. I'm going to drop these one on the ground. I'm going to crack a case and junk one. There we go. 15 SI. 15, I don't know what that means. SI, regulated internally, I don't know. Stands for something. Anyways, this is the monster. Where's the amps? No amps. Anyhow, this has got a third wire here, which indicates it's from a truck with a tachometer. Diesel truck with a tachometer. The guy at the alternator shop told me that. Excuse me. Oops, going down. Oops. Yeah. So, I've got a new regulator in there. I got an extra wire to drive a tachometer because diesels either use a mechanical drive. There's no distributor to get a tach drive off of. So they use that third lug, and that's pretty rare to find one of these. This came off of my bucket truck. But the biggest difference is, take my trusty Lufkin Made in USA tape measure. Back in the old days, tape measures used to have calculation tables on the back. Remember that? Don't know why they got rid of that. It was so handy. Right on the back. This one's got metric. And it's a righty tape measure because some of them are meant for pulling with the left hand. The writing is upside down, or maybe they got both writing upside down and right side up. So, yeah, I keep thinking about that gas sub-wild. Why everybody keeps labeling, or somebody, it's one person I bet you, labeling his videos as spam. His comments to my videos. Dimensions. This one measures across the back. It's kind of hard because you got to measure across the bearing. It measures 5 1/4 inches, which is in millimeters, centimeters, 13 and change centimeters. And this one is a little bit bigger, and it measures 5 1/2 inches. Yep, which is 14 centimeters. So you get an extra 1/4 inch of guts inside, and they also come in bigger amperages. These come up to 105, which is $80 at the flap for any local auto parts. 63 to 105, the price goes from 30 to $100. But if you get this one, it's bigger, which means it's less stressed. It's a bigger model meant for trucks, which is why this one specifically has that drive for the tachometer, which means it came off of a truck with a tach drive. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on the truck. Corvair alternator. Thought I had more alternators. I probably scrapped a whole bunch when I closed my shop back in '95. Killed me. I threw away so much good stuff. I kept a lot, but just had to cut my losses. What do we got here? Suburban. This is the small alternator with a plastic fan and the belt adjustments right to the end. Yeah, the sun's pretty bright today. It's a beautiful day. Chilly this morning. I came out on the porch to walk Muggs and I went flying, and so did he on the ice. So this is a small alternator, an amp rating. I don't know if I can see it. Can't see it. Who knows what it is. Keeps the batteries charged. I gotta put some antifreeze in. This thing is constantly leaking Prestone from the water pump area. Sometimes it drips out, sometimes it doesn't. It's not the water pump, it's a gasket, even though it seems like it's the water pump, but eventually I'll dig into it. Now, if you want to put the bigger alternator on, the 15SI alternator, if you want to put it on, you have to do a very simple modification. Now this one also has the bigger case, or the heavier duty case. See those round slots at the tip of the tape measure's touching? Those half round slots? I don't know what that does, but that indicates a higher amp version. One there, one there. Yeah, those slots in the case. Alternator shop guy told me that. This is the bigger one that measures 5.5 inches across, 15 centimeters. If you want to put the bigger one on, again, it's probably more money if you buy it rebuilt or new or whatever, or steal it from a junkyard. What you have to do is loosen all the bolts, the bottom two here, that hold the big bracket onto the water pump, and you loosen the top ones. That's one's there and one's somewhere else. Somewhere. Anyways, you loosen all the mounting brackets so the mounting brackets are loose, and you... Give me a second here. There's something else that doesn't fit. Oh yeah, that's what it is. You can't put the giant alternator. I'll get to that later. Anyways, you loosen up the brackets where they attach to the block, to the water pump area. I forget where they install. I haven't done one of these in a year, so I forget. Let's see, we got one there where the ground rod is. We got one there on top of the timing cover. There's a couple down there. You loosen those up and you squeeze this alternator in, and you tighten everything up, and it uses a bigger bolt up top, uses a metric bolt. And I've got a nut on the back of mine because I stripped the aluminum case. Common problem, especially when you have to tighten the belt really often. So by getting the bigger alternator, it's more able to charge the batteries, especially when you plow, which I do with this thing and run at low RPMs. They charge better at lower RPMs. They're made for trucks. They even have a smaller pulley, which only came on Cadillac. So I'm going to show you that in a minute. Now you can't put the monster alternator on, I'm going to show you in a minute, because you've got the heater hose outlet right there, right on top of the alternator. And that bracket, when you lift it up slightly to accommodate this larger alternator, the bracket hits this heater hose outlet. There's not much you can do about that. See that outlet right there? There's nothing you could do about it. So you put this one on and you're done. That's a 100 amp. Probably starts at 90, 95. Probably goes up to 120 amps. But not that the amps is so important, it's the charging at low RPM, because when you're plowing, you're cruising around, you got the headlights on, the heater on, your cherry light on, and you're going slow. So the batteries don't get a chance to charge. So you need that giant alternator, which is why I have that on. And they probably make different versions with more windings. I'm going to show you one more thing about GM alternators. One more giant that you can't put on the 6.2s. You don't have to worry about it for the 6.5s because they use a totally different metric alternator. Totally different. Alright. Here is the giant mother of all GM alternators. Compare it to this Corvair one from 65. 37 amp, 42 amp, maybe up to 55 amps. And you got this one starts at 63 amps, goes up to 105. I discussed that yesterday. Can't see the amps rating. But what do we got here? Another older one. Mid-70s, early 80s maybe. The latest would be 80s. Can't read the writing in the blurb. Anyways, the giant is this one right here. And this came off of a Cadillac. Because Cadillac, of course, is a Cadillac. Got 6-way power seats and signal-seeking radio, power antenna. Cadillac decided they were going to have the monster of all alternators. And this one came off of a Cadillac because it's got a cast iron pulley as opposed to a 2-piece welded stamped steel pulley. And this pulley is smaller, but it creates a problem. Because it's smaller, hang on, I gotta pull at this tape measure. Because it's smaller, the belt doesn't wind around it as much, and you tend to get slipping with this pulley. And I put one on, and I had a slippage problem. The belt was slipping and squealing no matter how tight I made it. So that's the problem with this smaller pulley. It's only a tiny bit smaller. Let's see what it measures. 2 5/8 across the face versus 3 inches, 2 7/8 across the face versus 1/4 inch smaller, but that's a big difference. So it spins faster at lower RPM for the low RPM Cadillac 500 cubic inch high nickel content small block. Yep, Cadillac is a small block. One block, 368, 425, 472, and 500. Actually started off 472, went to 500 in 72 in the Eldorado, then dropped back to 425 in 78 with the downsized Cadillac, and then it dropped to 368. And it was a good motor. Big cubes, and they're cheap in the junkyard. Hot Rod magazine years ago took a Cadillac, like a 73, and stripped down the body, ended up with a frame and a 5-gallon bucket going down the drag strip. Anyhow, back to the alternators. So here's a monster. It's a rebuilt Duralast. But you cannot put these on a 6.2. It's impossible because you've got that water outlet right on top, and it will not fit. Otherwise, I'd put one of these babies on. They also use a double mounting on the bottom. Different mounting system than the Chevy. Chevy uses this bracket right here. Will bolt across the back. They use this type of bracket. But these alternators did come as an option on a full line of GM cars because I had a 79 Pontiac Safari wagon, full size, with a 350, and it had this alternator. And that meant it was put on from the factory because the guy I bought it from didn't do any modifications. It was dead stock, low miles, and it was rotted. And I had to junk it. Then I got my 80 Caprice, and not on YouTube. This is rated at 80 amps right here, but that's the low end. These are a genuine 100 amp, low RPM, low cut-in. What's this one rated at? Good, 505. 7 years ago I got this. And there's those newer metric styles. I got one of those back there. That's the newer metric style alternator. Same as that one, kind of looks like a Ford from the 70s. So this is the Holy Grail. This one's got little ribs. Start off at 80 amps, so it's a solid 80 amps. Low stress. No rib reinforcements across the bearings, kind of interesting. And I've got 2 of them. I got a third one back there, way in the back. Probably never use them. They're big and old and heavy and clunky. And that motor, let's see, I had that Pontiac back in 95. I probably scrapped it in 96, 97, 15 years ago. You want to see the motor? It's sitting right there. Hang on a second. I'm trying to pull this tape measure out. Yeah, I scrapped that Pontiac. The door pillar between the front and back doors and the driver's side rotted away, but I kept the motor. It's just a plain old 350. Motor's right there. Yeah. 350. And I also scrapped an Electra 225 with a 307. That motor's sitting right there, all covered in dust. Get the electronic. That was an 87, first year for Chevy fuel injection. This one has an electronic feedback carburetor. Junk. What else I got here? I think that's it. Yeah, I got tons of crap. Hubcaps, motors, garbage. So that's your lesson on alternators. Small, medium, large, grandpappy. I'll probably never use those because I'm stuck with my 6.2s. All right, want to see the junk again? April Fools, I cleaned up the shop. Yeah, right. Thanks for looking. Off to work. And I'm going to go visit my mom. I haven't seen her. Power seat motor for the green Suburban. I should be getting that back from Pisser next week. We'll go get that and bring the Corvair. Get her painted up. Get my differential rebuilt in my Spider. Got junk? I do.